So when it comes to reading papers, if you're also taking notes while you're reading, broadly speaking, I see this happen in 3 ways. The first way is adding your notes directly onto the paper as annotations. The second way is collecting all of the info and your thoughts and ideas into a separate document. And the third way is organizing all of that information into tables with predefined categories. If you want to get more from the notes that you're taking while reading papers, like being able to easily use them and reorganize them for the task at hand, then this workflow is for you. Now let's keep it easy so that whatever method or combination of those methods you might be using, you can stick with. So today I'm going to go through how you can continue using any of those 3 methods to take your notes on Protolyst, and introduce a few ideas for how you can use the platform to help you with reorganizing your notes for whatever it is you want to use them for. So first, let's talk about annotations. So in your Protolyst workspace, let's upload a paper. I'm going to do that using this plus button at the top of your sidebar. And when you click that, you'll be given a few different options for how to set up your page. And to upload files, you're going to want to choose this third option, File Upload. And then you'll be prompted to choose a file on your computer to upload into your workspace. So let's grab a paper. Cool, and so that will be uploaded and it should open and you'll be able to read through and highlight and annotate as you go. So on Protolyst, we use atoms. And atoms lift whatever bits of text you've highlighted in your page out of that page, so that you're able to search through and access them without needing to have this paper open. So let's capture a few atoms. So your atoms can be just highlights, and you highlight the text and click that Capture Atom button. And this lifts that text out of the page and saves it as an atom. So this is the atom box. You can also add your own thoughts and ideas into this box. So if you click in here, you'll be able to type into it and add any further clarifying information or ideas that have been sparked while you were reading the paper. And once you've added in your information, you can click outside of the box and continue working through the paper. So let's grab a couple other atoms. So highlight the text, click Capture Atom. I'm not going to add anything to that atom. Then I'm going to continue through, grab another one. So as you work through and read your papers, you can do that highlighting and annotating technique. So let's upload another paper and capture some atoms from that one too. So using the blue plus button, choosing this file upload option, and then selecting another paper from your folder. You can open up that paper and again, work through, capture bits of text as atoms, and add in any further info into the atom box. Let me capture a few more in this paper. And so I mentioned that when you create atoms, it lifts that piece of info out of the paper so you can access it without needing to have the file open. So when you're adding your papers in like this and they're all being added into your sidebar, to search through all of those atoms, you can jump into this All Pages section. If you click on this, you'll see there's a list of all the pages in the workspace and a list of all of the atoms that have been captured down the right side. And up here, there is a search bar which you can use to search through all of your pages and your atoms by keyword. So if I type in trapping, you can see that that search has been applied. It's in the title of one of the papers and it's also in the body text of some of the atoms that I've collected. So I'm able to see and search through all of my atoms like this. But if you're going to be working with a large number of papers, we can talk about how you can use things like tables as folders to help you with organizing those papers. And we'll come to that shortly. And the second way we'll talk about taking notes on papers is documenters. And what I mean by that is that as you're reading the paper, you're adding all of your notes into a separate file. And you might do this as one summary file per paper that you're reading, or you might have one master document that you're adding all of the info from any of the papers that you're reading into. That was the way that I went when I was doing my PhD. So let's replicate that. So I'm going to add another page using that plus button, and I'm going to choose the text editor page type. And I'm going to give the page the title, Paper Summaries. Now I've got this set up, let's upload another paper and go through taking your notes in this document. So I'm going to go to the blue Add Page button at the top of the sidebar, choose the File Upload button again, and then grab another paper. So that's uploaded into my workspace. And I'm going to open up that notes page that we just created side by side next to this page using split screen. So there is a keyboard shortcut Control-click, or when you've got one page open, you can open up another page in split screen by going to that page in your sidebar, using this 3-dot page options menu, and then choosing split screen. And that opens up that page next to your current page. So So I've got the two pages side by side. So as my notes page is going to have several papers in it, I might type out the title of the paper and then start taking my notes. So similarly to the annotating flow, as you're working through and you come across a bit of info that you want to add into your notes, you can highlight that bit of text, and then instead of clicking the Capture Atom button, which appears, you're gonna drag and drop that highlighted text into your notes page. And that's going to add that text into your page, very similar to copy paste, but we've got this additional citation which is added. And you'll also see there's a references section which appears at the bottom. This gives you all the info about the paper and will be a direct link back to where this piece of text has come from in the source paper. And so then you can jump in here and carry on taking your notes and adding in any thoughts and ideas that you want. So let's add a few more notes from this paper. So as you come across the interesting bits of info, you can highlight and then drag and drop into your notes page, and it will again be added into the page. And let's grab one more. And all of the text in this page is editable. So if you actually wanted to, have that link back to the highlight in the paper, but actually summarize it in your own words, then you can highlight that text and delete it and type out your summary. And then you'll still have that citation available to jump back to the exact location in the paper. So if I click these different citations, you'll see that the page is moving to take me back to where that highlight is within the paper. So it's really easy for me to jump back in and double check what was said. And when we've been doing the dragging and dropping here, similarly to the annotating flow, that drag and drop action has captured an atom. So there will be atoms available to search through if we jump into that all pages search. So if I close down this split screen and then jump into the all pages search, you'll see that we've added those new atoms, or the info that was drag and dropped, across from the paper into the notes page as an atom in the workspace. So those nuggets of info are now searchable if you go to the all pages and search through by keyword. Okay, so we've added a few papers into this workspace, and as you're likely to be working with a lot of papers, let's talk about how you can organize them further using tables, a little bit like folders. So let's add a folder for our papers into the workspace. So if we use this plus icon again and choose the table option from the different page types, it will add a table into our workspace. So let's add a title here, papers. And so when you add a table into your workspace, you can think of it a little bit like a folder, and that it will contain a collection of further pages. So every row in your table is also a page in your workspace. So you can have a collection of files in here that you can open up and access and use just like I showed you previously. And when you add a table, there are a few properties that are added by default. There's subpages, which are pages that might sit underneath another page, so almost like a kind of nested folder structure. And then there are atoms, which are those nuggets of info that we've been capturing from the papers. Now, because we're working with papers, one thing that I'll mention is the citation property, which will grab all of the referencing information that you might want from the papers when you add them into your workspace. So we won't be using a subpages property, so let's swap it to a citations property. So you click into the title of the column, and then you use the drop down here, and you scroll to whatever property type you want. We're using citation, so I'll click that. And then there are a few different citation styles available. We'll stick with APA today. And we'll update this title to citation. And I'll just click outside of this box to close it and go back to the table. So let's move the papers that we already uploaded that are currently in the sidebar into this table. So this page, which is the paper we uploaded and took notes on in this paper summaries page, I'm going to move into the papers table. I'm going to do that by dragging and dropping it onto this papers title in my sidebar. You can see that as I did that, it's moved that paper into the top row position in the papers table. You can see it's collected the citation info for this paper, and all of the atoms that we created by dragging and dropping the text into the notes page are displaying in the atoms column. So you're able to see all those nuggets of info from a particular paper without needing to have it open or jump into the all pages search. So let's move the other papers which we use the annotation method on too. So I'm going to grab and drag and drop it onto the papers table, pops in as the first row, and the same for that other paper there, pops in as the first row. So let's expand the citation property slightly, and the atoms property too. So all of the annotations that you captured are displaying in this atoms property, and then any of the info that you dragged and dropped from the paper into the notes page is also displaying here. So if you like using the table method, what we've got here is a simple setup that's giving you the name of the paper, the citation information, And at this table level, all of the atoms that you capture from your papers are visible in this atoms property. And when you're working in a table, you can add new pages using the New button, which will add a new row into your workspace. And you can hover over this row and click the Open button, and you'll be given that same page setup options. And you can choose File Upload, and then select a file from your computer and upload it into the workspace. I've uploaded the same one twice. So to delete that page, I can go to the top right here, this Page Options menu, and choose Delete. And that will delete the page from the table, will take me back to the table, and I can start again. So you can add pages to your table one by one. And if you want to upload several papers at once, you can select them all and then drag and drop them onto the page, and they will upload one file per row. So let's grab a couple of papers and drag and drop them onto the table, and they will upload into the table. And you can see that the titles got updated as our system extracted the citation info into this property. It updated the name property too. So we've got a table of papers. And if you're using the table method, chances are that you want to separate out the information that you are collecting from these papers into some predetermined categories. And to do this, you can make use of tags or labels to separate out your atoms into those different categories of your choosing. So let's set that up for two categories, methods and applications. So what I'm going to do is add a property or column to this table using this Add Property button. That will be set up as a text property titled column. So if you click on that title, you can access the drop down to change the property type. So I'm going to swap it to atoms. And then to separate out the atoms into your different categories, I'm going to need to add a filter to this atoms property. And that filter is going to be a tag or a label in my workspace, which will be added to the atoms that I'm collecting so that they display in this column. So if I click in this filters box here, from here I can set up the tags or labels to categorize the atoms. So let's type out methods. We're going to choose add methods as a new page. And then we're going to choose the sidebar as the location for that page. So methods has been added into this filters section. So I can close that down, and you'll see there's a little filter icon in the property title box. And what this means is it will only display the atoms which have the tag or label methods. So let's repeat that for applications. So add property, click the property title, go into the drop down and choose atoms. And then we're going to jump to select filter. We're going to add applications, set that up as a new page in the workspace, add the page. It's been added as a filter, close down that box, filter icon is there, so we know this is a filtered atom property. So because our table has some of the papers that we've already collected atoms and made notes on, if we scroll down, you'll see in this atoms column, which has no filters, so shows all of the atoms that have been collected, the atoms are listing. But under the methods and applications columns, none of these atoms are displaying because they do not have the methods or applications tag added to them. So let's open up a new paper and talk about categorizing the atoms into your table. So we're going to make use of split screen. Again, I'm going to use the shortcut this time, so it's Control and click. See, as I hit Control, this icon changes to indicate that it will be opening in split screen. So if I click on that, we'll open up the paper side by side. And then we're going to need to move this along so that we have the target boxes for us to be able to grab the information and add it into the relevant column, methods or applications. So I'm going to click on this name column and turn on column freeze so that I can see the titles of the paper. And then I'm going to scroll along till we've got methods and applications displaying here. So I can then read the paper, I can highlight the text, and then drag and drop it into the corresponding methods or applications column or any other column that you've set up to add it into that column, capture that bit of information and have it display under this particular category. So let's do that again. This time we'll pop it into the applications, drop it in there. And you can see that when I've done that, the atom box has appeared. You can see there is the applications tag appearing in the information above the atom. This is the linking bar where you can add tags and labels to your atom. And then we've also got the text that has been saved as the atom. And just like in the annotating method, you can jump in and edit the information in this box and add any further info into it that you like. So I'm just going to close that out by clicking outside of it. So that It's the drag and drop way to be adding information into your tables. If you've got a lot of different columns and don't want to be scrolling back and forth or potentially dropping your atom into the wrong row, then you can also do this a slightly different way. So let's close down this table view so that we've just got the paper open. And since we're using a table and this paper is a row in the table, you can see the columns of that table using the properties menu. So the properties menu up here in the top right, indicated by this encircled eye, will show you all of the properties of the table that the page sits in. So we've got that citation property, we've got the atoms, all the atoms without a filter, that unfiltered atoms property here. Then we've got the methods and the applications properties too. So as you're going through and finding information that you want to add into a particular category, you can highlight it and then drag and drop it to capture that atom and add the tag or label so that it's categorized in your table. So let's just do that with a paper that we hadn't captured any atoms for. And you can close any of these menus which come in down the right of your page using this close button here. So let's jump into this paper. Got it open here. We're going to open up the properties menu in the top right here so that we've got all of the columns of the table. So no atoms have been collected, so it's a bit more compact for us to see. So as you're working through, grab the info that you want to save, drag and drop it into whichever category you want it to appear in. And as you add it into your filtered atom property, it's also an atom, so we'll display in the general atoms that isn't filtered box too. And so when you jump back into your papers table, if we close that menu again, you'll start to build up your table with all the information categorized under the different topics of your choosing. And if you come back and add those categories in later, such as with the papers that we did at the beginning of the video, where we were just capturing the notes and weren't doing any of this categorization in the table or otherwise, once you've added your different categories as columns of the table, you can go through your atoms list here, and you can drag and drop your atoms into the corresponding columns to start to categorize them and add the relevant tags or labels to them so that they display in this grid table overview. This atom, I can click and drag it into the methods column and that will automatically add that methods tag. So let's do it for the other atom in the applications. Just drag and drop it in and the relevant tag will be added. And if there are several atoms in this list that you want to recategorize, you can use Control click and then you can scroll down the list, Control click the others, and then you can drag and drop all of them and all of the atoms that you have selected will have the relevant tag or label added to them so that they display in the column. And then the final way that you can start to add these different tags or labels to your atoms is, as you're capturing them, typing the tags that you want to add into the linking bar. So let's open up another paper, go for the annotations method where we're kind of grabbing info, capturing it as an atom, and we've got that atom box appearing. So you can add your info into the atom box, and then above the atom box there's the linking bar. And from here you can start typing out the title of the tag or label that you want to add to your atoms. So let's categorize this one as methods. So now when we jump back into the table of the papers, you'll see that the atom that we just captured and added that methods tag to in the linking bar is displaying in the methods column. And so that's a few ways that you can lift the important info out of your papers, organize it, and add those labels to start to pull related information together into these gridded overviews. And depending on the method that you like to use, you can change up how this table looks to suit your preferred style of working. So you can jump into the property options for your table at the top here next to the new button to add rows to your table. If you open up this properties menu, you'll be able to turn different columns on and off. So if I turn off the methods and applications and even the atoms, you've recovered just a list of all your papers and the citation information there. So you can set up any different combination of information displaying for however you want to organize your notes. And by using those tags or labels to start to categorize the information that you're collecting, whether that's as you're collecting it or a little bit further down the line, you can use these table overviews to see all of that information at a glance and work through it. And you can also jump into the particular page such as this methods page, which has opened up in split screen, and you'll be able to see all of the atoms from all of the different papers that you've been reading collected together. So using this method allows you to pool related information from several different papers together in one place. So let me close that split screen view down. And so that's focused very much on the atoms in these tables. There are further properties that you can use to help with organizing your papers, such as the multi-select, which you might want to use for the different projects for which your papers are relevant to. And then you can set up table filters and views to show you just a particular group of papers that satisfy that criteria. So if you added a load of different options for your different projects, 3D printing, acoustic trapping as an example, and then you set up a filter, you'd be able to see all of the papers which you've categorized for that particular project in the table. So however you like to take notes while you're reading papers, stick with that method. So if you're annotating, you can continue doing that in your table and then add further properties later. Use the drag and drop method for all of the atoms displaying in that atoms property into the different columns that you've set up with different categories to reorganize the information. If you're documenting, you can drag and drop info into your notes page and that will save it as an atom. So that again, if you then move all of those papers into a table, you've got that flexibility to quickly work through and reorganize them into different categories for you to use that info further. And if you're jumping straight in and using the table and setting up those filtered atom properties to have those different categories around which to collect the information from the get-go, you've got that ready as well. If you're using something based on tables or databases like Protolyst, you've got that flexibility and option further down the line to reorganize your information so that you can see the information that you need. Because it's less about the way that you're actually taking notes and more about the systems that you can access and use and build to make it easy to reorganize and work with your notes in the future. So hopefully that gives you a bit of ideas and inspiration for building your reading and note-taking flow.